Welcome to the November 6, 2025 Planning Commission hearing. I'll call the hearing to order at 1 p.m. Ms. Carmen, can we please have roll call?
Thank you, Vice Chair Boss. We'll begin with Vice Chair Boss.
Present.
Commissioner Barnwell.
Here.
Commissioner Bauke.
Here.
Commissioner DeLuccio.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
And Commissioner Wiscombe.
Here.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get started with preliminary matters, requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or ex-agenda items. Ms. Arzaniega, do we have any?
Thank you, Vice Chair Boss. We do have one continuance, so the project at 1250 Cliff Drive has been continued to the November 20th Planning Commission hearing. And then I do have an announcement. Did you also say announcements?
Yes, do we have any announcements or appeals?
We also have an announcement that an emergency coastal development permit was issued to allow the clearing of culverts at Laguna Channel adjacent to 101 to avoid potential flooding during the rainy season. Work began on October 20th.
Great, thank you. We are now on to item C, review, consideration, and action on the draft Planning Commission minutes. We'll take the items separately as they cover two meeting dates. First, October 9th, Planning Commission minutes. Are there any Planning Commissioner comments on the minutes? Yes, October 9th. If not, I do. Okay. My only comment was on the motion for item 4. 1C was that the commission is in support of potential increase of sales tax revenues for the city, and not that the commission is not supportive of that, but I don't recall that being part of the motion. Any other comments?
Commissioner Boss, if I can speak to that one, that comment came from Commissioner DeLuccio when he added to the motion. So we were unclear if it was supposed to be part of the motion or not. It was not contested.
Okay.
So just wanted to clarify. And if that was
Okay.
it wasn't intended, then that's fair to remove.
As the maker of the motion, it was not intended, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Then with that, are there any public speaker comments for the October 9th minutes?
I do not have any speaker slips at this time.
All right. Then can I get a motion to approve the October 9th Planning Commission minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And Ms. Carmen, can we please have a roll call vote?
For clarification, Vice Chair, the motion includes the removal of 4C, whatever.
Of 1C.
1C. Sorry, thank you.
Yes, and item 4, correct.
Okay, I will begin with Commissioner Bauke.
Yes.
Commissioner DeLuccio.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Barnwell.
Yes.
Commissioner Wiscombe.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Boss.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right. And second, the October 16th Planning Commission minutes. Are there any comments on these minutes?
It's up here.
Not, are there any public speaker comments for these minutes?
I do not have any speaker slips for this item.
Great. Then can I get a motion to approve the October 16th Planning Commission meeting?
I'll move the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. And Ms. Carmen, can we please have a roll call vote?
Thank you, Vice Chair Boss. I'll begin with Commissioner Bauke.
Yes.
Commissioner DeLuccio.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Barnwell.
Yes.
Commissioner Wiscombe.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Boss.
I'll abstain. I was absent.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to item D, comments from members of the public pertaining to items that are not on today's agenda. Due to time constraints, each person is limited to 2 minutes. Ms. Carmen, do we have any in-person or remote, anyone in-person or remote that would like to give a public comment?
Thank you, Vice Chair Boss. At this time, I do not have any speaker slips for in-person public comment under general, though if anyone in the room would like to speak under general, you can approach the podium at this time. But I'm not seeing any movement, and I will remind the audience that if you would like to speak on any items on this agenda, that you can fill out a speaker slip at the back of the room, and you can bring one up to me. But moving on to virtual participation, if anyone online would like to speak under general, you can raise your hand at this time. But I'm not seeing any raised hands, and we did not receive any written correspondence, so I'm going to give it back to you.
Great, thank you. We'll now close general public comment. We'll move to item 3, discussion item on people assisting the homeless, or PATH. And there's no action for the Planning Commission on this item, but the purpose of this report and this meeting is for PATH to provide its 2-year report on the operation of the homeless shelter as required by the conditions of approval. We have a few staff here to provide a presentation who will introduce themselves during the presentation. Floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Chair Boss and Commissioners. I'm Kelly Brodesson, and I'm with Community Development, and I'm here with Barbara Anderson, and she is the Senior Assistant to the City Administrator and the Acting Housing and Human Services Manager. And let's see. The project we're here to talk about today is at 816 Cacique Street. It is the homeless shelter known as PATH, People Assisting the Homeless, previously known as Casa Esperanza. And this was an aerial photo showing the location of the site within the city limits. You can see it's just off the 101, between the 101 and the railroad tracks. And it's north of the coast. And it's just off of Milpas Street. And this is a slide showing the front view of the building where the shelter is located. And I wanted to just say that in this conditional use permit was approved in 1999, and it was for a homeless shelter to operate on the site. And as part of the conditional use permit, there was a condition of approval that the operators of the facility are to check in with the Planning Commission every 2 years and just to show an update of what's going on the project site. The last report was provided in 2023. The condition of approval reads that it says Casa Esperanza, however, that was the previous provider, shall provide progress reports to the Planning Commission every 2 years, and at the time, the next report was due in 2010. At the time, there was also an organization called the Milpas Action Task Force, which has since been disbanded. And the report today is to do a discussion of overall operations, statistical information, number of people served, and complaints received. And parking demand and utilization should also be discussed. And so the purpose of the hearing, as I said today, is the biennial report to the Planning Commission regarding the compliance with the conditions of approval, the overall operation of the facility, complaints received, and response to those complaints. Just to give you a little bit of history, there is a long history with this property starting back in 1999. However, most recently in 2015, Casa Esperanza merged with People Assisting the Homeless, also PATH. It's the name of the facility. They operate 140 beds for 90 days. The police department requested that the number be increased by 10% during inclement weather. And in 2012, there was a 12-bed detox program that was relocated from the Casa Esperanza facility managed by the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. In 2021, the PC requested that SB Act serve as a stand-in to facilitate the neighborhood meetings with PATH. As I stated, their previous group was Milpas Action Task Force, which disbanded sometime just after COVID. A representative from PATH should work under the Eastside Regional Action Plan system, and PATH is to notify neighbors within 750-foot radius of those meetings and give monthly presentations at the RAP meetings and notify the neighborhood of these presentations. So regarding the overall operations, the facility operates, as I said, 100-bed interim housing for the unhoused, and they have served, since the last report, 650 individuals, and they've done 66 housing placements, and some of the programs include interim housing, behavioral wellness, and cottage health facilities. Regarding neighborhood collaboration, as I said, PATH attends the bi-monthly Regional Action Plan meetings. They're hosted by the Santa Barbara Alliance for Community Transformation, also known as SB Act. And they've expanded to become the South County Collaborative, including the city and Santa Barbara County, Goleta, and Carpinteria. Regarding parking, in 2004, there was an amendment to the CUP that allowed for parking to be provided with 13 spaces on-site at 816 Cacique and 20 spaces off-site at 110 South Quarantina. The off-site parking spaces are on a property owned by Marburg, and that, those parking spaces will be temporarily displaced due to a renovation that will be taking place on that site. And alternative parking spaces will need to be identified before that starts to happen. And recent developments, as discussed in the staff report, PATH will be ending its program across Santa Barbara County at the end of this year. And city leadership is working to transition the operation of the shelter to an interim nonprofit service provider by December 21st, 2025. We have Charissa Uribe and Sasha Morozov here from PATH to provide their 2-year check-in. And as I said, we have Barbara Anderson here from the City Administrator's Office. And we have Commander Chris Payne from the Police Department also to provide any answers to any of the questions that you may have. And that does conclude my presentation, and we'll hand it over to the representatives from PATH.
Thank you. And as you present, if you don't mind introducing yourselves. Thank you.
My name is Tesha Uribe, and I'm the Chief Program Officer for PATH.
And I'm Sasha Morozov, the Regional Director of PATH.
Yeah, so we have a PowerPoint.
Could you speak directly into the microphone because this is broadcast on a TV station? Thank you.
Sure. Okay, I think we're ready for the first slide. Next slide. Okay, so PATH over the last 2 years has continued to operate a 100-bed harm reduction shelter year-round. As stated, we have 100 beds, different funders, such as City of Santa Barbara, Goleta, Santa Barbara County, which includes probation, adult protective services, Cottage Hospital, Be Well. We have served 650 individuals. 80 people have been able to increase their income. 66 people have made it into a permanent home, and 554 people have exited programs. Next slide, please. So as you can see, from 2022 to 2023, or sorry, that should probably say 2021 to 2023, we've increased the number of people we served, and we've served 650 people over the last 2 years. And we've seen an increase in the number of people increasing their income and increasing their housing placements. We just wanted to show you pictures of the updates and upgrades so you could see those. Next slide. PATH has also operated a rapid rehousing program in partnership with Santa Barbara City College, where we provide short-term case management and rental assistance, as well as a scattered site HUD program. The rapid rehousing program with Santa Barbara City College will also be ramping down December 31st and switching to a new provider. And then the HUD program PATH will continue to operate through May 31st when the contract ends. And we're working with the county to have those funds re-enter the community at that point. Next slide. Okay, so in 2022, outreach was launched to do the neighborhood walks, provide case management, get folks in. The hours of operation for walk-ins was Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and then the outreach geography has not changed. Next slide. So the outreach impacts are also similar to the previous report, trying to coordinate with Santa Barbara Police Department, coordinate with safe parking programs. We provide Spanish-speaking outreach with other organizations, and then just behavioral coordination with Be Well, who also provides funding for beds within the shelter. Next slide. So the difference of the neighborhood updates between the last report and this report is PATH opened its restrooms to provide 24/7 restrooms to folks experiencing homelessness in the area. We promoted that to local businesses so that they could give it to people to use the restroom in our facility versus their businesses. So I think that was a different thing from the previous report. And then PATH also partnered with the city of Santa Barbara to implement the Trash for Cash to try to focus on picking up trash and helping keep the community clean. Next slide. So the themes that we're seeing, and again, this feedback is received in person, through our hotline, and through an email address, is loitering, sleeping on the surrounding streets, trash and litter. We did see a decrease in complaints of people using the restroom in the public, and we are hopeful that that was because we allowed the restroom to be accessible 24/7. Next slide, thank you. So we created and distributed a resource guide for neighbors to try to, give them solutions to some of their complaints. We were able to get new trash cans installed through the support of the city. We had done neighborhood walks to facilitate communication, and again, collaborating with Santa Barbara PD on illegal activity. To the right is the resource guide that we created and distributed. Next, thank you. This gives the list of the different, requirements that we had that Kelly had mentioned, and we fulfilled those requirements. I think that's the same. And yeah, that's our 2-year report.
Great, thank you. Appreciate both of the presentations from staff as well as from PATH. Are there any planning commissioner questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Peterson.
Thank you. Thank you for your report and for the work that you all do. I think this is really important to our community and for those who do not have a home. So thank you very much. In the staff report, since it was here, I know that our purview might not be your future plans and programs, but I'm curious as to your thinking on, as you transition to an interim operator, what does success look like?
Yeah, I think that there's an opportunity for the new provider with the city to have resources for case management, to make sure that people are able to get what they need in order to be a successful part of the coordinated entry system, and take advantage of housing opportunities. During this time of communicating our departure, we've really seen rallying around our site from the county and, different voucher programs, and having opportunities for folks to move into the permanent options, and that has been amazing. So I think, there's been a lot of coming together and really, propelling that effort, and I think that will continue to help the shelter be successful.
Commissioner Wiscombe.
Vice Chair Boss?
Yes.
Are we in questions or
this-
both? Because we should open public comment.
Oh, before Commissioner, I apologize. All right, let's pause the commissioner comments and questions and ask if there are any public speaker comments for this item.
Thank you, Vice Chair Boss. At this time, I don't have any speaker slips for public comment for this item, so I will move to virtual participation. If anyone would like to speak who is currently online, you can raise your hand at this time. Though I'm not seeing any raised hands, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'm going to give it back to you.
All right, thank you. We'll return back to commissioner comments and questions. Commissioner Wiscombe.
Madam Chair, can I have one more question?
Yes.
Just as follow-up to that, can you talk a bit more about your thinking in terms of continuation of services, so that one person one day, another person the next day, how does this look like, and what will that do to the folks who we're working for?
Yeah, well, I think it's actually, want to commend the city because they are, working hard to get a provider on by December 1st, and our last day of operations is December 31st. So we have the opportunity to have a lot of overlap with the new provider. And also our hope is that, certain key staff that we have in place could potentially have the opportunity to also work for the new provider. And that's really best practice. So I think that part is really set up for success.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Boss, if I just may remind the commission, focusing on the 2-year look back. It's appropriate for some questions regarding the transition, because I understand it's of public interest, but try and focus on the 2-year look back.
Thank you. We'll move to Commissioner Wiscombe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question about the alternative parking. I know parking challenges have existed over the years there. So you identify in the staff report that alternative parking solutions need to be identified. And since Marburg is I think have they already started
They've
in
started.
October, according to the
Correct.
staff report? Yeah. So what are you coming up with for a solution to those spaces lost while that's under construction?
Sure. So some of the things that we've done with our own staff is created some incentives for people to utilize alternative methods of transportation, like the e-bikes, and things like that. So we've offered those opportunities, and then, just the street parking, it has been okay, but yeah, it is a challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have anything in particular. You just in terms of e-bikes, are you providing financial incentives?
Yeah,
You
like we
are.
purchase passes for them, because I think there's like these e-bike rental
Yes. Yeah.
passes, and so we will reimburse our staff for those expenses.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you for that. And then I wanted to ask Commander Payne, may I ask you a question, please? Thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Welcome. So over the years, we've had these 2-year reports on the Planning Commission, and I think a number of years ago, we asked for increased neighborhood outreach. And in this staff report, it says that you're increasing also the security guard presence. So can you talk to the complaints? Have they escalated? Have they decreased? The intensity, which ones are the, I'm just trying to get an overview of what's happened since neighborhood outreach and the security guard has been added.
Okay. I think I will do my best to answer your question. I will tell you that complaints are very cyclical. Again, just like any other part of the city, we have limited resources. So once we start to see that there's an increase in an issue, then we redirect our resources to try and combat an issue before it becomes severely problematic. And so as time has gone by, we've worked with PATH to try and be a little bit more responsive before the issues have escalated to a point where we're seeing a significant increase in citizen complaints. I've noticed over the past couple of years that there has been some rotation of staff and some staff that have come from different locations with different mindsets and different interactions with different law enforcement agencies, which has created probably a little bit of a slowdown in the initial communications until those relationships were established. But to that point, I think we're now in a better position to where we have more open lines of communication and the relationships have been established and there's better trust. So I think our complaints are a little bit more kind of even keeled and not so, we're not seeing the same number of spikes. So I think overall it has gotten better. Some of the complaints have transitioned to individuals that maybe are residing in their vehicles, but less about what's directly happening in front of PATH.
Okay, I appreciate that's a very good answer, and I thank you for that. So a follow-up question to what you said, would it be helpful in the future with a new provider, since you've had these challenges with changing staff and your department, would it be helpful to have some sort of training for a future provider that maybe alleviated some of this kind of problem?
Well, by being involved in part of the interview process for the future providers, I think what we're doing is we're establishing those relationships up front before they even become a
Good.
provider.
Okay.
To try and eliminate some of those communication difficulties that we did experience in the last couple of years.
Great, okay.
And Commissioner Wiscombe, I want to add, when things
Thank
were working in the most ideal way with PATH and law enforcement and our code enforcement teams and city staff in general, PATH has had some rock star outreach specialists. And I will say, when we've had that person really engaged and leaning into their role and understanding the community and communicating back with us regularly, as well as that support with PATH leadership, we have been able to address all of the concerns that we're fielding, being able to be responsive for the neighborhood to feel like we're being responsive to them. So it is also something that we're looking for in a future provider, is having that neighborhood ambassador, liaison, staff liaison that's really dedicated to external to the facility and making sure that we have that constant communication, as well as, of course, the organizational leadership.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. And I think that, I was concerned with the statistical information on the chart, but I think you clarified that it's the dates. That confused me. So so I think that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move to Commissioner DeLuccio.
I'm glad that the Planning Commission, many, many years ago, had the hindsight to put these conditions in place, because this report is thoroughly thorough, if it's such a way of saying it that way. And this is going to be good historical documentation as we move forward. And I want to commend you. I think you guys done a great job for the many years you've been here. And I'm sorry to see you leave. And I would think when you do your RFP, a lot of this stuff, the learnings would be part of the RFP process going forward. Ms. Anderson?
Commissioner, they have. So we did a request for qualifications that was already distributed. We received proposals early this week. We conducted interviews this morning. We're working as quickly as we can. In an ideal world, we'd have more than 30 days transition, but where we are in terms of being notified about the end of service delivery, we're also, as a city, working to acquire the property, so agreement on purchase price also, shortened our timeline. But we are working swiftly. We're very pleased with the proposals we've received. A lot of the lessons learned were included in the RFQ. We actually worked with a collaborative of partner agencies from county HCD to Be Well to probation to Cottage Health, City of Goleta, to create the RFQ, as well as to evaluate the proposals.
Okay, so the city is acquiring the building supposedly, and if that doesn't happen by January 1st, I guess there'll be some other arrangement in the meantime?
There will have to be in terms of occupancy, yes.
Okay. Just want to thank you for the report again. I think it sounds like things are going well, and with Ms. Anderson, I think I have good faith that it'll continue that way.
Any other commissioner comments or questions? I'll just add, Commissioner Bauke.
I just want to thank you for your efforts in the reports, very, very detailed, and we will miss your activities in our community. Thank you.
And Commissioner Barnwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'm going to double down on that. I was on the Planning Commission when this was established, and I remember what we went through to get it. And we had a lot of trouble downtown with the homeless downtown, and we came up with that location. And I have to say, the organization and the way you run it has been exemplary. And I want to thank you just on the community's behalf of having done such a good job. Thank you very much.
I'll add my gratitude, and specifically for having restrooms open 24/7. That's a huge part of offering some dignity to folks who are often not getting that, and look forward to hopefully the Trash for Cash program continuing. But thank you so much. There's no action for the Planning Commission on this item, so we thank you for your presentation, time, and efforts, and we'll move to the next item.
Thank you.
We'll move now to item 4, discretionary applications for Los Patos underpass removal. And I think we'll have, do we have staff here to make a presentation on this item?
We should have some ducks.
Yes, and we'll actually take a brief recess. And we are moving on to item 4, discretionary applications for Los Patos underpass removal. We have a few staff here to provide a presentation. Will introduce themselves during their presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Vice Chair Boss. I'm Kathy Kennedy, Project Planner from Community Development, and I'm joined by Eric Goodall, Public Works Engineering, and we'll be sharing the presentation today. And also, we have with us Dennis Whalen from the ABR and Dennis Dordan from HLC, and they are able to provide comments to you if you'd like. Thank you. So this is the Los Patos Underpass Removal Project. Just want to point out the photo on this first slide. This is exit 95 off the southbound 101, and this shows you a view of the existing Los Patos rail bridge. Here's the vicinity map. So this project is located on the eastern side of the city, next to Los Patos Way and Andre Clark Bird Refuge, as shown here. The purpose of the Planning Commission hearing today is to consider the certification of the environmental impact report, approval of the coastal development permit, and adoption of the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. I'll give you a brief project summary. So we have the removal of the Los Patos underpass and bridge, including the abutments, center pier, girders, and decking of the bridge, installation of new solid fill material and ballast, and then replacement of the new tracks on top of that fill, new landscaping. Los Patos Way will be configured as a cul-de-sac, And then during construction, there will be a temporary shoe-fly railroad track to maintain the rail operations during the construction of the project. Here is the demolition plan. So here we have, zoom in a little bit. This pavement will be removed under the underpass as part of the closing off the exit. This will be removed, and additional asphalt removal here. And for the construction, there'll be, as I said, placement of new fill under the track, removal of the pavement, removal and replacement of the rail bridge, installation of a chain link fence, and again, this will be configured as a new cul-de-sac area. This project was required to go to design review, although it was reviewed by the Historic Landmarks Commission in terms of the determining the historic nature of the project. It did go to ABR because that historic bridge would be removed. So ABR looked at the project in terms of having it been removed, and ABR at the time asked staff to restudy the proposed fence and maintenance path that was proposed at the time and the landscaping. So since then, the project has been changed, and you'll look at the plans shortly, but that maintenance path road was removed and the fence, it was also removed. And additional landscaping is proposed. Because this project is a coastal development permit, we looked at the project in terms of coastal policy consistency, and it is consistent with a number of our coastal policies. I've got some listed here in relation to biological resources. It's consistent with our policies regarding protection of environmentally sensitive habitat areas and also nesting birds. It's consistent with policies related to compatibility of surrounding areas and policies related to design review and landscaping, as well as Native American consultation and preparation of archaeological reports. We looked at Highway 101 policies as well, and it's consistent with the ESHA protection policies and their impacts to adjacent bird refuge that they are consistent with. There are policies, of course, related to preservation of historic resources in both our coastal plan and general plan. This project is not, because it is removing the historic resource, although we do have an EIR to address that issue. And I'm going to turn this over to Eric Goodall. We're going to switch spots here, and he'll take it from here.
Thank you all. So the project timeline, I'll go over what's happened and what's to come. So we have come April 11th. We started the public comment period for the draft EIR, went to the Historic Landmarks Commission in later in April to review the draft EIR. We had the public comment period and the hearing with Planning Commission in May for the draft EIR, and have since then went back to ABR for concept review of the plans and redevelop some of the plans based on that. So today we're at this November 6th Planning Commission meeting for the certification of the final EIR and the CDP. Next steps for the project would be going to HLC later this month for the demolition findings and their review and approval of the interpretive display. After that, in winter of 2025, early 2026, we'll be going to ABR for final design review. Little background on this project. We went over at the previous draft EIR meeting, but we'll go over it again here. This project is located near the adjacent to the 101. It'll be removed. The Los Patos off-ramp will be removed as part of the Caltrans and SBCAG Highway 101 high occupancy vehicle project. That will remove specifically the pavement and the off-ramp itself that's within Caltrans right-of-way up to Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way. Union Pacific Railroad requested that the Los Patos underpass be removed to avoid a public nuisance and continued maintenance once the freeway off-ramp is closed. And UPRR has requested that the removal of this underpass happen in conjunction with the construction of the Cabrillo and UPRR bridge. This project is phase 2 of what's already happened recently in the Cabrillo Los Patos area. We recently completed construction of the Cabrillo Los Patos roundabout. That was completed in fall of '24. We're continuing landscaping and monitoring of that. This project is phase 2, where we will continue work from north of the roundabout through Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way at Cabrillo. And then this project specifically is the removal of the Los Patos off-ramp. So it'll be constructed with phase 2 of that previous Cabrillo roundabout and railroad bridge project. This slide is slightly out of date. When it was drafted, we hadn't received the SB 1, Senate Bill 1 funding. At this point, we have received Senate Bill 1 funding for this project. So funding is secured for construction of both phase 2 of the Cabrillo UPRR bridge replacement project and the Los Patos project. Project overview, as Kathy mentioned, the Los Patos off-ramp and roundabout, rail bridge is at this location. Caltrans will be doing work on adjacent ramps for the 101 as they reconfigure where the main 101 bridges will sit, as well as turn the existing left-hand off-ramps into right-hand off-ramps and do some roadway work on Cabrillo as part of that project. This is just a close-up of what's happening here. So you can see there's a significant amount of pavement that lies within Caltrans right-of-way in this section. That will be removed by Caltrans as part of their project. Then the Union Pacific Railroad Bridge itself and the pavement under it and the pavement beyond it that extend into city right-of-way are what we're addressing and will be removed with this project. This specific slide shows the rendering that we had come previously, where we had a path, a gate, chain link fence, and when we went to ABR, the question was posed, why do we have this? The city took a look at that and evaluated. There really wasn't a need for it to be so far forward. So we have relocated, you can't even see it here because it's so lush and planted, but we moved the chain link fence back to UP right-of-way so that it does create separation there at the right-of-way line, but it opens up this area for revegetation and really beautifies the area rather than having it look a little bleak and a path to nowhere. The proposed landscape plan is on this slide. We have a number of trees proposed in the area. We are limited in how many trees we can plant directly in this area because there are utilities that run through this section. Specifically, there's water lines, there are some storm drains. There's a lot of overhead utility as well. So we can't fully plant out the area with trees, but we did propose some sycamore trees where we can fit them. Let's see. So the EIR analyzed the potential environmental impacts or effects associated with the project in accordance with SECA. The purpose of the EIR was to provide information to the public and the decision makers, disclose information regarding potential significant effects that a project could have on the environment, and identify ways to avoid or reduce the impacts. The EIR project study area, this has not changed between the draft EIR and the final EIR. It's consistent with what was shown previously. In the EIR, there are some elements that were deemed less than significant. Those specifically are the biological resources and the hazards and hazardous materials. The significant and unavoidable impacts of this or effects of this project are to the aesthetics because we are removing a number of trees within the project area. They can't be replanted within the project area. Therefore, the effect is significant and unavoidable. The cultural resource removal is the removal of the potential structure of merit, which is unavoidable. We can't maintain it in place in any way. And then under land use and planning, both the removal of trees and not able to mitigate them directly within the project area and the removal of structure of merit makes the effect significant and unavoidable. As far as mitigation measures, we'll implement the mitigation measures shown on the screen. Everyone who's working on the project will be aware of the environmental sensitivity of the area. Nesting bird surveys will be performed prior to any trees being removed. We'll implement Bio3 best management practices as well as pre-construction wildlife surveys. And a tree replacement and protection plan has been noted in the final EIR. Specifically, it'll be developed by a certified biologist and will necessitate that trees are replaced at a 1-to-1 ratio, and there will be a 2-year monitoring and mitigation plan for that tree replacement and protection plan. The mitigation measures for the historic structure removal involve recordation that will be filed with the Library of Congress, as well as the interpretive display that will be displayed at site, and the exact text that will go into that interpretive display will be taken to HLC for their review. We will also be salvaging and reusing materials that we can. At the previous draft EIR presentation, we discussed reusing sandstone and potentially steel. Through conversations we've had with Union Pacific since that meeting, they've indicated the steel is theirs and will remain that way. So the sandstone is something we still propose to reuse. And then for soils management plan, we will put standard language in our contract that if hazardous materials are discovered, they're to stop work and proceed with standard operations in addressing those hazardous materials. As I said earlier, the next steps for the project, we have the meeting today to discuss the final EIR and the coastal development permit. After this meeting, assuming the EIR is approved as drafted, we'll go to HLC November 19th for them to make the demolition findings and review the interpretive display, and then go to ABR sometime in the winter for final design approval. The city or staff is recommending that the motion be made as written here, that the commission certify the final environmental impact report, adopting findings of fact and statements of overriding considerations in Exhibit H of the staff report, approve the coastal development permit, adopt the mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program, and make the findings in Section X of the staff report, subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit A of the staff report. That concludes our presentation.
Great, thank you. That takes us to comments from members of the public pertaining to this specific item. Ms. Carmen, do we have anyone in person or remote that would like to give public comment?
Thank you, Vice Chair Boss. At this time, I don't have any speaker slips for in-person public comment, so I will move to virtual participation. If anyone online would like to participate, you can raise your hand at this time. But I'm not seeing any raised hands, and I will acknowledge that we received written correspondence from Kevin Heim and Marvin Norman, and give it back to you.
Great, thank you. I'll open it up to my fellow commissioners for questions. And first, we have Commissioner Barnwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the historical discussion, a lot of focus was on the bridge. None was on the road itself. Could we go back to the very first screen of this presentation? Right there, hold it. I understand from old timers in the neighborhood that that was what we now see as dirt on the right-hand side of that was actually part of the road. And am I correct, it was built in 1901?
I don't have the exact date, but that sounds approximately.
Okay, so I read somewhere in all this, it was built in 1901. So it seems to me that the historical thing going on here is not just the bridge, but what was the road? You know, I mean, the trains don't build bridges very frequently. So they had to have built this bridge for a reason. Like, was this the original 101? Or did 101 come through the coastal, what we now call, Old Coast Highway? But I think that's an important component of the discussion that's going to go into that interpretive display as to what is this? Why do we have this? So I would, and you guys don't have that in the report, correct? It's not in there, and so I'm just asking you why, and can it be put in there? And
Are you referring to a discussion about what was the road originally What was the
Well, I'm
function of
referring
the
to
road
the
originally?
historical, you know, we have to do some kind, the EIR requires us to comment on the bridge, the loss of the historical components associated with the entire project, and yet there's no discussion of the loss of what that road used to be, because the road is going to be lost just as well. So what are the historical roots of that? It seems that should be in the discussion.
I believe that based on the historic structures report and the review by HLC, the roadway itself wasn't reviewed and determined to be of historic significance.
That's my point. I think if you went back to the HLC and asked them again, some of them might go, wow, that's interesting. We didn't think about that, because they come at it from the viewpoint of structures, as they should. That's what they're there for. But I think they might have missed something in terms of our history. Anyway, that's my question to you. It's not in the report, but I would urge that be something you guys think about when you put together that. And then my next question is, the interpretive display and the historical discussion is not mentioned as being something that would be shared with the Santa Barbara Historical Museum. Is there some reason why they aren't in that same circle of historical groups?
Are you referring to what wouldn't be just?
Well,
wouldn't be
you
shared with them?
specify where the interpretive display will go,
Right.
what it'll consist of, and it'll be there for 10 years, et cetera, but there isn't any cross-linkage with the repository of our history, which is the Santa Barbara Historical Museum. So if you're going to do a big study on this bridge, why wouldn't they be included in that?
They would, in our mitigation measure CR-1, so it would be page 15 of your report, does have that mitigation measure, and it does says an archival quality copy of the documentation of the bridge would be given to the Santa Barbara Historical Museum.
It is in there. Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Commissioner Bauke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a question. It goes back to, and if you could pull up page 34 of our staff report. I'm trying to understand distinctly, and it says in the paragraph after the description of the applicant, which is the city and the owners, UP or Southern Pacific, depending on which history you have as to that right away. But there's all these other projects going on. And I'm trying to understand, in the context of all these other projects, why was this separated out as a separate project from the widening project and these other projects that are in this list? And why is the city the applicant? And why isn't UP at least a co-applicant or the applicant in this particular case, since you've parsed this particular piece out of this equation of all these other projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we have all these projects together, it seems, I think, to the public and to someone looking at the area, this could be one giant project. Specifically, this bridge, the removal of the off-ramp didn't directly necessitate the removal of the bridge itself. From a Caltrans standpoint, it addressed the removal of the off-ramp and the closure of that ramp by closing access to it and removing the pavement, and nothing further was necessary to close the off-ramp. The adjacent project that the city had been working on since, I believe, 2017 pertained to traffic flow on Cabrillo itself. So it was Cabrillo Boulevard, the roundabout, and that corridor as it tied into what Caltrans was doing with the 101. Through negotiations with Union Pacific, they indicated that this bridge was a continued need to address, both keeping it functionally and is hit often by drivers, and then as an attractive nuisance and an ongoing maintenance problem. So while addressing the Union Pacific Railroad Bridge at Cabrillo, widening that so that we can complete the work on Cabrillo itself, it was a time where this bridge also should be addressed per Union Pacific. So it came in as a secondary project as we were going through the design and coordination with Union Pacific Railroad for the Cabrillo work that is directly related to the 101.
Okay, so then the question to me is, first off, who paid for the EIR? Is UP just basically being a beneficiary to all this public agency work? And from what I understood from your presentation, the state of California is writing the check for this public entity, this private entity that's got billions of dollars improvements. And what does the public get out of doing this for UP?
Right, so the public benefit is that the work at Cabrillo will widen the roadway. It'll allow us to construct multi-use paths and take a crossing that right now is very dangerous for pedestrians and install something that is user-friendly, aesthetic, and will have great connection from Coast Village Road, that whole area, down to the beach. And so I think there's a great public benefit at that location. There's also the benefit, I think, in removing this bridge that even though the off-ramp will be removed as part of the 101 project, it still is there as an attractive nuisance. So there's a public benefit there to removing the bridge, infilling with fill. It reduces some of the potential ongoing maintenance that's down there. But really, it's the public nuisance for the Los Patos Bridge that's removed by changing this from a bridge into fill.
But wouldn't that be basically UP's issue and their problems and their liabilities and not the city's liabilities as to the public nuisance aspects?
I think there's some joint impact to UP and the city because of the right-of-way connection there. That because UP, if there's nuisance activity happening at that bridge, it's also happening adjacent to city right-of-way. And resources for both Union Pacific and the city may be necessary to address issues that may happen at that bridge.
Okay, and my last question, we had a comment letter that we got just this morning from Marvin E. Norman, and he brings up a great question, is if we're going to go through all this effort, why aren't we planning for more long-term future aspects of this corridor, especially considering the public's writing the check, at least that's my understanding, unless you say that's not the case, for these UP improvements. Why aren't we planning and in dealing with the needs for a wider situation and a siding that works long-term? Because this corridor has been having a conversation with UP for, at least I personally have been involved in that discussion for 25 years. And they seem to be the impediment of anything ever happening on this corridor. And here you're going to be doing another set of public improvements for their benefit, and the public's not getting anything. You know, UP doesn't reciprocate is basically my comment. And so I just was trying to understand, why is it in the city's interest to do this for UP since we don't get anything on the backside?
Yeah, I appreciate the comment from the public. I reviewed it, and the concept of double tracking is something the city has looked at with this project. Union Pacific at this point isn't planning on double tracking as part of this project, but we had looked initially of where the shoe fly is placed. We would assume that would be where Union Pacific would want to place a second track in the future. So our understanding is that we would place the fill material, we would place the tracks, and potentially those would be left there when operations are brought back to the main line. Through conversations with Union Pacific, and this is not something that I've been privy to the why, but their desire is to have a secondary track be on the ocean side. So when we're building the bridge at Cabrillo, we're going to build it so that it can accommodate a second track on the ocean side of the crossing. Continuing the track through that area would require Union Pacific to come in and add more material and place the tracks there, at which point they decide to double track. But as far as leaving material in place, our understanding right now, and we don't have final approvals and design with Union Pacific, is that most of the material that is used to build the shoe fly track will remain in place on the north side. So it does present an opportunity that if they do choose to double track and place that track between themselves and Caltrans, there's already material there that will help facilitate that operation.
Okay, thank you for your response to that, because to me, this is a time so you don't have to do it twice. I mean, The
Yes.
general public gets very upset when you see public works departments go put in a big water line through a street, cut it all up, and then patch it up, and then come by and then repave it over again 2 years later, and,
Yes.
let's plan a little bit farther ahead and at least keep that option open, so the big public policy benefits to the community can be done without doing it over again,
Yeah.
is my point. I want to make sure that's part of what we're doing here.
And from that perspective, what we're doing at Cabrillo, adding the secondary track capacity at that bridge will allow us to not have to reconstruct that bridge. With the elimination of Los Patos, they won't need to build or widen another bridge there. It'll just be fill material and whatever other additions they need to do. But we won't be redoing work, ripping something out, putting something else in that was just done with this project 10 years from now or whenever Union Pacific decides to put in a second track.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move to Commissioner Wiscombe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate your question on the shoe fly becoming the side track. I don't understand, but I know it's been difficult. Okay, I'm going to go on to just some detail stuff that I have. So we are extending the shoe fly all the way to the Cabrillo Bridge, right? That's what the drawings show.
Correct, yes. So under, if I can find the slide where it shows the project area, the reason the project area is as extensive as it is, I think I skipped by it.
Yeah, I know there's a drawing
Somewhere in
in our packet that
Mhm.
that shows that.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, there, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the shoe fly extends through that yellow corridor. It's not as extensive, but that's the extent of the corridor that we evaluated.
Okay, so, and that's in anticipation of the work at the Cabrillo Bridge eventually, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
And
okay.
the work at Los Patos. Union Pacific's requiring that track operations are not stopped in any way while this work happens.
Right, okay. So I just as a point on our conditions of approval, under the approved development, I think that it should be, we should, when we get to the motion, I think we should make it clear that, that the shoe fly extends to the Cabrillo Bridge, which isn't really clear in this description, that I can tell.
Okay.
So
That's fair.
that would be one comment I have, a question. And then another in the conditions of approval, and I'm not going in any order, I'm sorry for this, I'm getting to these, I'm skipping ahead to these before I ask some other questions. On page, on page 6 of 17, that's in the conditions of approval. The condition for alternate sites for trees, I think we need to make it clear that the city arborist or urban forester, in consultation with the Street Tree Advisory Committee and approved by the Parks and Recreation Commission, we should just go through that process that we do for alternate sites for trees that are off-site from this project. Ms. Kennedy, you following me? Yeah. So I just think that should be clarified. And then I wanted to go on to, because I'm a little bit confused about this on-site, off-site. So first of all, we have mitigation tree planting areas on the drawings. And are they large enough to accommodate 100-plus trees, or have we looked at that?
We did take a look at it, and the area itself is large enough to accommodate the trees that'll be removed and mitigated for the project. We have identified some other locations in town on Milpa Street, some other areas that are lacking trees. So if, when we get to construction and soils are tested at some of these exact locations, it's determined the soil is infeasible to plant trees, we do have some other locations in mind where we could plant trees.
Okay.
And we'll
so-
work with the city arborist on making sure that those other locations work as well.
Okay, so it has, you do have, that's good. The Street Tree Advisory Committee usually gets involved in species, location and species, but I
Right.
think the urban forester will identify the appropriate locations. So, so that said, on page 56 of 87, this is section 4.1 of the biological resources. You don't have to go there under BIO-5. It states that all trees removed shall be replaced on a one-to-one basis on site. And then you go to page 70 of 87 in section 9.2, which is findings for cumulative impacts for which the project's incremental contribution has not been mitigated to a less than significant levels. And BIO-5 is the tree replacement and protection plan that calls for protection of trees on site to extent feasible and planting of trees off-site. So did this finding, or this section 9.2, which is the one where we're mitigated to we're not mitigating to less than significant levels, is this supersedes the on-site condition in section 4.1 under biological resources? Are you following me? No.
Not exactly.
Okay.
I think I see under tree removal and replacement, all removed trees shall be replaced on site on a one-for-one basis, minimum 15-gallon tree.
Right, and then later on, it talks about trees moving to off-site. So we're all on the same page that we can do off-site. They're not all on-site.
Correct, yes.
Okay,
I
because
believe
that's
that,
not what this original
That's-
condition says.
Yeah, that original one is our standard, referring to our standard
Okay,
condition of
I just
approval.
want to
with
make
no
sure. I was
movement.
confused by that, so, okay. So we follow the one that's in section 9.2, in that incredibly long title about finding for cumulative impacts for which the project's incremental contribution has not been mitigated to a less than significant level.
That's correct, yes.
Oh, gosh. Can we find a way to shorten that in our lifetime, please? Okay. So that's that question. And Mr. Norman's letter was addressed by Commissioner Bauke. So I'm understanding that if Union Pacific in some time in the future decides that the shoe fly is, the former shoe fly is a suitable location for a second track, that they can do that then on their own.
correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then we moved the chain link fence. I think ABR had said they wanted it removed, but we moved it back. You showed that drawing, is that right?
Their comment was removing from where it is, which
Okay.
we removed the chain link fence from where it is. There needs to be something between Union Pacific
Okay.
Railroad and the right-of-way, or it's appropriate to have something there to help keep people from going up onto the track area. It should be closed to the public.
So you've moved it back to their property?
Correct. There's, you
Okay.
can see it you can see it a little bit in the corner where
Oh,
my
yeah,
cursor
it
is
looks
here.
much better. And then is the maintenance path still there then? too?
No, so we evaluated the need for the maintenance path and really decided there isn't a need to have a paved maintenance path through there. So if
Okay.
anybody needs to go do maintenance for the landscaping or the fence, they can go through the area just walking through it.
Okay, that's great. I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Move to Commissioner DeLucia.
Thank you. Chair Boss, does ABR or HLC, we have some representatives here, do they have anything they want to add to the conversation?
Do the representatives from Historic Landmarks or Architectural Board like to make any comments? You can also wait after. Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Dorton from the Historic Landmarks Commission, speaking on behalf of the commission. We reviewed the draft environmental report, and we were asked specifically to make comments on section 4.3, the cultural resources section of that. And the commission agrees with the conclusions and mitigation measures recommended in that EIR. So we are supportive of it. That's what we have to say.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm the other Dennis. You can't have too many of them anymore. We saw the first image in June 6th, which wasn't on the timeline, and we made those comments that I think have been fully addressed. Specifically was that the fence and rolling gate should be moved back to the right-of-way line, that access path go away, and that most importantly, the fill and landscaping should be compatible with the surrounding area and have a landscape plan that gives some sophistication and identity to that cul-de-sac. Now, the subsequent redesign was the first I've seen of it on glance. It appears to do all of that. We will get a chance to go over that this winter. And for myself, we didn't specifically aren't charged with the historic display. I think Commissioner Barnwell was spot on that the gateway, the trellis actually was the gateway to Santa Barbara between 1901 and whenever the interstate was built in 1940s. And as such, along with the roadway, the structure formed that entry and exit on the south gateway to Santa Barbara. And when we get to that time when those interpretive displays are designed and written, I would hope that it includes that. I'm sorry to see it go, but it does appear that there was no alternative to saving the bridge. It was crumbling stone and rusting steel and et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
I actually have a question for you, Dennis. This Dennis over here. I know you guys also made a comment at your last review about the sandstone. I know HLC looked at possibly incorporating it into the visualization of the project, but you guys recommended sort of away from that.
Well, that wasn't our purview, but it was made clear to us that some of the stones are degraded to a point they wouldn't be useful, along with the steel, but that's really an HLC item, not an ABR item, unless it came down to the placement of those monuments in the landscape. It occurs to me it might be in the roundabout, it might be a hazard. You know, it didn't appear there was a walkway at the cul-de-sac. So including all those elements with a thoughtful landscape plan would seem to be the order of the day.
Okay, thank you. Even though the mitigation, I think, does read that the sandstone, if they can incorporate some of the sandstone, or is a recommendation, or use it elsewhere in the city, is that correct?
Yes, and specifically what we're looking at is at the Cabrillo UPRR bridge as a veneer on that bridge.
But the steel has to be returned.
Correct.
Okay, because they wrestled with that also. I know they were divided on that item, the HLC, whether they wanted to incorporate that as well. Thank you. Did you have another?
There was a long discussion at the HLC about materials, both the stone and the steel, and we were advocating for the reuse of as much of that material as possible, either as part of the interpretive display or elsewhere in the city. So we're supportive of either. We expect some of it will be used in the interpretive display, and we look forward to seeing the preliminary design for that interpretive display at our next meeting. We were assured yesterday it was almost ready to show to us, and I have every confidence that we'll see it.
Okay, thank you. And I have one final question. Thank you. Sure. So this goes before the HLC on the 19th, and then it doesn't go before the ABR until the winter sometime of 2025 or 2026?
Winter of 2025, so between December to February.
When do you anticipate this project getting started, if we certify your EIR today?
That is a bit contingent on final design approvals through the railroad. We, per the funding source, will be allocating construction before June of 2027. So that's our project funding deadline.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Barnwell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you go back to like page 4 or 5? It's an aerial view and you have a big black spot, that, oh, right there, back up there. So, yeah, thanks. That, as I understand it, is city land.
Correct.
And that is where we're going to put in some landscaping and a few other things. Have we given any other consideration to that, to the use of that land?
The consideration to the land was primarily predicated on its existence right now as public right-of-way. It's not a separate parcel. It's part of the city right-of-way. So the considerations had previously been to maintenance, if anyone needed to go back into the area to do some maintenance, and then upon discussions with ABR and further evaluation, it was seen more as a good opportunity to beautify the area and add some needed landscaping to an area that otherwise was pavement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And Commissioner Peterson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple questions. Just kind of, I want to zoom a little bit out on this and get back to some of the genesis of this. So is it true that Union Pacific is not contributing any funding to this project?
Correct.
Okay. So the project funding is coming from SB1?
A considerable amount of the construction funding is coming from SB1.
Do we know how much that is, or did I miss that in the staff report?
It wasn't included as part of the staff report. I don't remember the number offhand. We do have a member from SB CAG here if you want to know the exact dollar amount.
Just, yeah, in the ballpark.
It's in the, I believe, 45 million range.
North of $40 million. Okay.
Yes.
When we get SB1 funding, I know SB1 funding is project specific. Does it take away from potentially other projects in the city that we could use that money for? Or apply for a different project?
So I would say the grant process, their applications put together and applied for specific pots of money and the funding available there. There's specific criteria under which those funds are then awarded to the grants that meet the criteria and score higher. In a sense, this project receiving funding under SB1 would reduce the amount of funding available for another project that met similar criteria and scored similarly to apply and receive that funding. I want to note that this project was one of many projects that were put together in a larger application that included the 101 widening and some other projects in the area that are necessary for mobility and transportation purposes. So it was a much larger, I want to say around $138 million in total was received as a larger grant application with specific projects identified within that application.
Okay. Since we're in the area, and as we heard about when we got an update in a different meeting, was there any thought given to the pedestrian access bridge from Salinas over the freeway in terms of this funding? Because I know we're short on that funding.
That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, do you have an answer, Fred? So the city partnered with SBCAG and Fred Luna's, yeah.
Good afternoon. Fred Luna with the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments. Appreciate the discussion today. So the story behind the Senate Bill 1 funds, as Mr. Goodall indicated, we were successful in a fourth cycle to fully fund both the Cabrillo project and the last segment of Highway 101, which we're calling 4E North. So we submitted it as a package, as Mr. Goodall indicated, for a program specifically called Solutions for Congested Corridors. So they look at the 101 corridor and related projects. And per our coastal development permit, the Cabrillo improvements were one of the associated projects we needed to assist the city with in getting those funded, us and Caltrans. That being said, I think everything Mr. Goodall said was correct. The amount of funding that we got for Cabrillo was in the $30 to $40 million range from that program. And then your last question was related to, I forgot.
Yeah, I asked our city folks this because I know that we've applied for state funding for the pedestrian
yeah,
access bridge.
exactly.
And we're still
Yeah.
waiting on that funding.
Yeah.
And so and if not, why was there not consideration given to that project, which
Yeah.
is important to communities here in Santa Barbara?
Exactly. So every cycle for Senate Bill 1 is every 2 years now, and so they have certain deadlines for delivery, and they have requirements. And so when we first met with the city, and we were at Caltrans and SBK, and said we're going to submit a package for projects in this part of the corridor, the notion of the Sycamore Creek Bridge and the crossing there did come up, but it was so premature, it wouldn't able to be delivered in the timeline that was met by this particular cycle. And so we moved forward with that project. Didn't even have environmental done at the time. And so there's certain requirements. You have to have environmental complete within 6 months of the award. And that award was done in June. So as you see, we're barely getting to the environmental on this project. So, yeah, and a lot of time had been spent on this project to date, so.
Okay, thank you. My, knowing that we're this far along in the project, what is the timeline in terms of getting this done?
So the timeline for construction for this is to start construction in award construction in June of 2027. So begin construction in that I would say between June 27 and the end of 27.
So this will all be sealed off and done by December of 2027?
Construction to start within that time frame,
okay.
And then it's going to be an 18 to 24 month process, construction project for us to complete this.
So we'll be done in 2030? January 2030?
I would safely say 2030.
Okay.
Obviously, we're shooting for sooner. If we award in 2027 and we're 24-month project, we're done mid-29.
No more questions.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we move into deliberations then, a reminder that discretionary applications under our jurisdiction today are certification of the EIR, coastal development permit, and adoption of the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. So are there additional comments? Commissioner Barnwell.
Ms. Jasper, could you do me a favor? Could you put these on the overhead projector, starting with the one at top? So what I want to discuss, and I still haven't received an answer for it, and I don't know why, is that, again, the road is land that the city owns. It's city-owned property under that road. And we have asked staff repeatedly, and I know they're understaffed, but we have asked repeatedly for an inventory of city land that has a potential for some use. Can we, is it up? It's warming up? It's warming up, okay. And I don't understand why we are planting on a piece of ground that could have a building on it. Now, when this finally warms up, I want to show you the adjacent neighbors to that parcel. And 2 or 3 of the recent land sales associated with that very short little street of Los Patos, they're in the millions and millions and millions of dollars. Why are we doing that? I don't ever, in my experience, ever remember an applicant coming in front of us with an extremely valuable piece of real estate saying, I think I want to plant flowers and put in a driveway. I've never heard anybody do that. Why are we doing that? Is that not coming on? So the discussion process of how we came to this conclusion of what we're going to do with that land is not satisfying to me. And also, on the other side of that discussion is our need, the city's need for funding, for money. We're always looking for money because we're short. The budget is short. I know that if we went over to the Housing Authority right now and spoke with Rob, he'd love to have this piece of real estate and put up some apartments. Why aren't we talking about that? And I want to show, I hope this can come up within a second or two, I want to show an actual graphic so that everyone can understand what's going on that beautiful little boulevard. Some of you may have been to the Post, which is that little development right at the corner of Los Patos and Cabrillo Boulevard. It's a gorgeous spot, and it's very active and busy. There's a 5-unit apartment house on Los Patos, backs to the railroad track. Why? Okay, thank you very much. The orange is ours, cities. And my black lines are actually incorrect. The top black line I pulled back a little bit for the slope of the embankment, but that's wrong. That entire orange area that I have listed there is city property that's probably available for development. Now notice what I put next to it. Parcel labeled number 1, sold in the year 22, so 3 years ago, for $7 million. Now it has a building on it, granted, but it's an old building that's going to need a lot of refurbishment. The other one that I have marked green coming further down the page, this one's hilarious. It sold in 2016 for $2.3 million. 9 years ago, it sold for $2.3 million. The parcel labeled number 2 is a 5-unit apartment house. And then the one labeled number 8 is the Post. Notice, 3 years ago, it sold for $19 million. Now, it has a building on it, but that building needed a lot of refurbishment. Now, if you look at the part that I have labeled as orange, and this commission, we're always looking for a place to put housing. And housing is supposed to be where it's like in a crisis position. And this is our real estate. And we're just going to plant flowers on it. Now, admittedly, there are no curbs, gutters, and sidewalks on what we would reconstitute as a new lot. And there's no utilities to it. But I can tell you right now, across the city of Santa Barbara, land like that is selling for $250 a square foot. It's in all the multiple listings, which means that that property is worth $12 million. Okay? If you take the orange section. And let's just say that Barnwell was just off the top completely crazy. Even if I'm off the top completely crazy, it's worth $6 million, something like that. Or let's just say it's worth $2 million. Why aren't we trying to utilize that land? Now, I cannot support this thing in front of us because it seems to me to represent yet another situation where we're not planning. This isn't planning as I see it, and particularly when there's a crisis associated with housing. So while Mr. Bauke mentioned that also, like, where is this coming from and what's this piecemeal kind of thing going on? If anything felt like piecemeal to me, this project feels like piecemeal. And we're talking about where the tree's going to go and where we're going to plant these things. I just can't see it. So I have to tell my fellow commissioners, because of a complete lack of understanding that this is city land and we have other things we could do with it. And insofar as it not being a separate parcel, we create parcels. That's what we do. So anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
Move to Commissioner Wiscombe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project has been a long time in the making, and I take a little different stance on it than Commissioner Barnwell, although I do appreciate, I think he's got a very good argument. But there's sensitive area around the property with the bird refuge there. And I feel that safety is our number one priority, and this is an area that's had a lot of safety issues to it with that off-ramp. And I think that we're making good progress with Union Pacific, which last time we saw this, they weren't even in the mix. So now they've apparently kind of gotten in the mix on it, even though they're not contributing any money. But I also think it benefits a larger project. This area is not safe. There's been accidents there. And also the Cabrillo Bridge area is a real pedestrian hazard area. It's just way too narrow for pedestrians and bicyclists. I have to almost close my eyes when I go under it. So I think it has advantages, and I like the historic, how we've handled the mitigation for the historic aspects. I totally support what Commissioner Barnwell's saying about the road, Los Patos, and what that used to be. And I think Mr. Whalen said the same thing, that, he called it a gateway. It was a gateway back then. I think we need to look at that and see if that's the case, if HLC wants to incorporate that in. I thought the fence being moved really opened up the land. And I think that all in all, staff has come a long way on this project over many years. And it's taken a lot of hard work, and I'm, based on the safety concerns of both the Cabrillo Bridge, I was totally ecstatic when the shoe fly was being extended over there. And based on the safety concerns of both areas, I think that we definitely need to move forward with this. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner DeLuccio.
Yeah, I'm sort of finding the conversation very interesting here. I need to focus on what's in front of me. I know we have a piece of property that may have some value, and maybe someday we can redevelop that into housing or whatever. But right now, I think we have a safety issue, as has been articulated. And we also, what's real critical is, can we make the statement of overriding consideration? That's real key to me if we're going to certify this EIR. And I believe we can. I think we are removing historic structure, but we have a plan in place of how we are going to treat the removal, how we're going to recognize it, and maybe add some of the sandstone to it. And we also, and I like the treatment of the fence now. Having the fence there didn't really look very aesthetically pleasing, so I like that the fence was moved back. And the tree replacement, we are going to lose a lot of trees, but we do have a plan in place to at least replace them one to one. So I think we have a good mitigation plan in place. It's articulated in our conditions as well as in the EIR, and if we follow that, I can make the findings today that we do move forward and certify the environmental impact report. And I know that we have other things in front of us that would also fall into place, approving the coastal development permit, et cetera. So I'm in favor of moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, continuing comments on the discretionary applications before us. Commissioner Barnwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I misspoke earlier. Ms. Jasper, could you go up there and put those pieces of paper again? I don't mean to imply that this piece of real estate is worth $10 or $16 million. I was speaking of it in some kind of a finished condition, like the other ones that are adjacent there. If you would turn those pages to the next page. See, this is the building that sold for $7 million that's at the end at the cul-de-sac. The one below it is the one in 2016 sold for 2.3. The next page, please, Ms. Jasper. There's the 5-unit apartment house. And then below it is the Post. And all of those are incredibly valuable pieces of real estate. I think, is there one more page there? Yeah, and that's the aerial of it. And so at $250 a square foot, its value is somewhere around $2 or $3 million or something like that in its current condition. And I just want to emphasize again, housing is so important, and we haven't even looked at it. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. I'll add too, when I appreciate the shift from the chain link fence to more landscaping, that's a much nicer view. And I did want to acknowledge that during our May 1st meeting, Commissioner Barnwell, the minutes reflect that Commissioner Barnwell said he would like staff to consider other uses of the land that is designated to be a driveway, as he believes the lot has value and could be a potential restaurant or housing project. So I wanted to acknowledge that. And I'm not certain if that made it into the EIR, those comments at all. Or were they considered?
We did acknowledge all the comments from the Planning Commission, and they were answers related to that. It could be that this is not an environmental issue. I just wanted to say that it could be a project in the future if the city decides. It is right-of-way, so there's no zoning designation or coastal land use designation on it, and the process to go through that would require rezone. It would require going to the Coastal Commission for an LCP amendment and lots of processing, which we do, but it's a long process. And there are also other utilities within that area. So it's a sort of a bigger project and not really part of what they're trying to do here. But again, in the future, that could be something that the city might want to look at.
Thank you. I appreciate you addressing that.
I'll note, just to answer the question, was it included? We did include responses to the comments as part of the EIR.
Okay. Thank you. I did not memorize it. Apologies. We'll move to Commissioner Peterson.
Yeah, I just want to mention very briefly that I also appreciate the idea of thinking about how we use city land to accomplish very needed goals, especially housing, and the way that the city has a unique ability to contribute to developing very low and low-income housing, which the state, which our RENA numbers indicate that we need to do. Just to be clear, am I understanding this correctly, that we can move forward with this project as it is and still consider on that parcel, theoretically one day, a new and different use?
I would say nothing about the project would preclude a change in use, and in fact, a use for something other than what is proposed would require an extensive process to rezone and change the use of both this section as well as potentially the roadway.
And I think knowing that helps me be able to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then we will, I'll open the floor for a motion to make the findings that are outlined on page 8 of our staff report and on slide 24 here related to certification of the final environmental impact report and coastal development permit. See, Commissioner DeLuccio is interested in making that motion.
Yeah, we can definitely certify the final EIR. We can adopt the findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations in Exhibit H of the staff report. We can approve the coastal development permit and adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program and help me here, make the findings in section 10 of the staff report subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit A of the staff report. That's my motion.
And do we have a second?
I would second it but I'd like to add the other two.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll
So
accept those.
going back to what I said at the beginning, so in the conditions of approval, 1B, or I think that's 1B, should include the construction of the shoe fly extension to Cabrillo Bridge. I think we just need to get that in there. And the other one is on page, I think, 6 of 17 in the C of A, condition for alternate sites, just that we cite the process that we go through to approve street trees, and, eventually it all gets approved by the Parks and Rec Commission, but starts with the urban forester, arborist, whatever, I guess urban forester is what we call call him. So with
Do you accept those
the maker of the
amendments?
motion.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank
So we
you.
have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay. If not, Ms. Carmen, can we please have a roll call vote?
Thank you, Vice Chair Boss. I'll begin with Commissioner DeLuccio.
Yes.
Commissioner Barnwell?
I have to vote against it just as a protest against what I think was not a proper analysis of what to do with the land at the end of the road. So my vote is a no.
Okay. Commissioner Wiscombe?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauke?
No.
Would you like to provide your reason?
I don't think the city should be paying for Union Pacific's problems, honestly, and the project should be closing the street and removing the pavement, making the cul-de-sac, and let Union Pacific bring forward a project that deals with the long-term need for the corridor to have double tracking through this area to accommodate future rail service.
Okay. Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Boss?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. This action is appealable for 10 calendar days, and we'll thank staff and the HLC and ABR and SBCAG representatives for joining us today. Though closing that item, we'll move on to our administrative portion of our agenda, beginning with committee and liaison reports. Do we have a report from the staff hearing officer liaison?
Not today, I'll have one next week, but I do have something else I want to mention.
Moving right into other committee and liaison reports. Commissioner DeLuccio.
Yeah, I just think it's critical that the ABR next Monday, November 10th, at 3 o'clock, has a new application in for the architectural board review for the Sears Le Cumbre Plaza project. And that is the proposal to redevelop the property with 443 unit rental housing development. So I think that's really critical and could be really helpful to our city to have that many number of housing coming aboard if we can work out all the based on the design approvals, et cetera. So that's next Monday at 3 o'clock. And that's, where do they have those hearings? At the Gabehart, at 630 Garden Street.
Madam Chair, are you the representative of the commission to that body? Who is the Planning Commission ABR? You are.
Yeah.
Commissioner Barnwell is the ABR liaison? Okay.
So, since this is a very important project, can we have you attend that meeting and present to that group our comments? Because otherwise, all that's going to get lost in the mix. Thank you.
And I believe our comments via our minutes were also provided to ABR. So. Any other committee or liaison reports? Any discussion on subcommittees and workshops? Okay.
I have a question, and it comes back to the State Street Master Plan, is whether this body, considering this is going to be a very formative and very quick process with the new consultant, whether to speed up sort of our deliberations and conversations about the master plan as it goes forward, because it's going to be, they're trying to shorten it down to a 50-page document, but it could have been a 300-page document just as easy. Whether or not we want to talk about forming a subcommittee to do some pre-review to speed up our internal work on this. And I know that's not on the agenda, but we should probably put it on the agenda for conversation for our next meeting, if that's possible.
Ms. Arseniegan and Ms. Carmen, can we add that to the agenda under Administrative Agenda B and add a separate section? Or at least discussion about that for a future meeting?
Yes, we can add a discussion item.
Thank you. All right, it is now 2:43 p.m. and that concludes our November 6, 2025 Planning Commission hearing. Our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for next Thursday, November 13th. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.